Welcome to my channel, where I bring you tales of horror and suspense. In today's video, I'll be reading a story that will leave you on the edge of your seat. In this story, we follow a man who wakes up in a coffin next to a freshly dead body and soon realizes he's buried alive. With no memory of how he ended up there, he must navigate his way out of the coffin and through the spooky graveyard to unravel the mystery and find a way to escape before it's too late. As a lover of horror and all things spooky, I'm excited to share this first-person horror story with you. It's filled with vivid descriptions, engaging narration, and unexpected twists and turns that will keep you hooked until the very end. If you enjoy this story, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel for more horror content like this. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video. Thank you for tuning in, and let's get started. I woke up in a cramped space, my body aching and my head throbbing. It was dark, and the air was stale, thick with the scent of earth and decay. For a moment, I panicked, wondering where I was and how I got there. And then it hit me. I was in a coffin. I pushed against the lid, heart racing as I struggled to escape my claustrophobic prison. My fingers clawed at the wood, desperate for purchase. Finally, after losing all hope, I felt a sliver of light seeping through the crack. Encouraged, I pushed harder until the lid finally gave way, sending me tumbling out into the open air. I gasped for breath, eyes blinking rapidly as they adjusted to the sudden light. And then I saw it, a body lying next to me, pale and lifeless. The sight was enough to make me gag, bile rising in my throat as I scrambled away from the corpse. I stumbled to my feet, limbs unsteady as I took in my surroundings. I was in a graveyard, the headstones looming like silent sentinels in the darkness. The moon was full, casting an eerie glow over everything. It was then that I noticed the name on the headstone next to me. It was my own. I recoiled in horror, mind reeling as I tried to make sense of what was happening. Had I been buried alive? And if so, who had dug me up? And why? As if in answer to my unspoken questions, I heard footsteps approaching. My heart leapt into my throat as I realized that I wasn't alone. I crouched down behind the headstone, peering out at the figure who had just entered the graveyard. It was a man, dressed in black, with a shovel slung over his shoulder. He moved with purpose, heading straight for the freshly dug grave. It was then that I noticed the other figures lurking in the shadows. 2 more men, dressed identically to the first. They began to dig, their shovels biting into the earth with a sickening thud. And then, finally, the coffin was exposed. One of the men reached down and opened it, revealing the corpse inside. I watched in horror as they began to strip the body of its valuables, jewelry, watches, anything they could get their hands on. And then, as if sensing my presence, one of the men looked up, locking eyes with me. I froze, my heart racing as I realized that I had been discovered. The man shouted something to his companions, and they all began to run towards me, shovels raised like weapons. I turned and fled, my legs pumping as I raced through the graveyard. Behind me, I could hear their footsteps getting closer, their shouts echoing through the night. And then, just as I thought they had me cornered, I saw it, a gaping hole in the ground leading to a hidden tunnel. I had to take it. Without thinking, I leapt down into the darkness, my body tumbling through the air. I landed with a jolt, my bones rattling as I picked myself up and stumbled forward. And then, as I reached the end of the tunnel, I saw the light. I burst out into the open air, gasping for breath as I took in my surroundings. I was in the heart of the city. the neon lights flashing like beacons in the darkness, and as I looked back, I saw the men emerging from the tunnel, shovels raised high. I turned and ran, heart pounding as I raced through the streets. I didn't stop until I was sure that they weren't following me, and even then, I couldn't shake the feeling of dread that had settled deep in my bones. What had just happened? Who were those men, and why had they dug me up from my grave? And most importantly, why was I buried alive in the first place? I stumbled through the deserted streets, my mind whirling with questions and fear. And then, just as I thought I couldn't take it anymore, I saw a light in the distance, a small, dimly lit storefront. I approached cautiously, peering in through the dusty window. Inside, I could see a man behind the counter, reading a book. He looked up as I entered, a friendly smile on his face. "Can I help you?" he asked, and I realized that I had no idea what to say. I don't know," I stammered, my voice hoarse from disuse. "I think something terrible has happened to me." The man nodded sympathetically, gesturing for me to take a seat. "Tell me what happened," he said gently, and I found myself pouring out the entire story, the coffin, the graveyard, the men with shovels. The man listened intently, nodding occasionally as if to show that he understood. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair, deep in thought. "Well," he said finally, "it sounds like you've been through quite an ordeal, but I think I might be able to help you." He reached under the counter and pulled out a small, leather-bound book. It was old and worn, with strange symbols etched into the cover. "This is a book of magic," he said, holding it out to me. "It contains spells and incantations that can help you find the answers you seek." I hesitated, unsure of what to make of his offer, but something inside me urged me to take the book to see if it could offer me any clues. "Thank you," I said, taking the book from him. "I don't know how to repay you." The man just smiled. "Consider it a gift," he said. "And remember, sometimes the things we fear the most are the things we need to confront head on." With those words ringing in my ears, I left the store, the book clutched tightly in my hands. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew that I couldn't go back to the way things were before. Something had changed inside me, something that made me feel like nothing would ever be the same again. And as I made my way through the city, the book of magic burning a hole in my pocket, I knew that I was about to embark on a journey unlike anything I had ever experienced before. A journey that would lead me to the darkest corners of the human soul and force me to confront the true nature of fear.